We all set on this side? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will turn to Article 10. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 and no cents to be added to the Prospect Mountain High School General Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund previously established, and sum representing 50% of the total appropriation of $80,000 and no cents, and further that this appropriation shall be contingent upon both Alton 50% and Barnstead 50% school districts adopting this article and appropriating and transferring their respective sum of money. GAMA Board recommends by a vote of 8-0. The Alton School Board recommends $40,000 by 4-0. The Alton Budget Committee recommends $40,000 by a vote of 6-1. A majority vote is required. Who makes a motion on this article?
So moved.
Marilyn St. Cyr. Who seconds? I do. Sandy Wyatt. Who speaks to this article?
This article, of course, being a general maintenance capital reserve fund, is probably pretty explanatory. But as far as its use, last year it was certainly called upon when the roof warrant article did not pass. This fund was used to do a fix-up job to get by this year, and of course the roof is so important. So this is a general maintenance fund for a variety of needs that come up.
Any discussion on Article 10? Hearing none and seeing none, I will take a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 10.
I would like to make a motion to restrict further consideration on this article.
Marilyn St. Cyr, who seconds? Sandy Wyatt. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article number 10, please raise your cards. All those opposed? Article 10 is restricted regarding reconsideration. Article 11. To see if the Alton School District will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $479,500 and no cents. Said sum representing 50% of the total appropriation of $959,000 and no cents for the purpose of installing an engineered metal roof system on Prospect Mountain High School, and further that this appropriation shall be contingent upon both Alton 50% and Barnstead 50% school districts adopting this article and appropriating and transferring their respective sum of money. JMA Board recommends by a vote of 8-0. The Alton School Board recommends $479,500 by a vote of 4-0. The Alton Budget Committee recommends $479,500 by a vote of 7-0. A majority vote is required. Who makes a motion on this article?
I so move.
Steve Miller. Who seconds?
Second.
Krista Ageropoulos. Who speaks to this article?
I do.
Oop, can you use that one? Can you use that one?
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
I got put it on.
Okay. I was going to speak from the podium because this is really important. They all are, but this really should have your consideration. The total cost to finish the roof is $959,000, split 50-50 with Barnstead. So that's how we come up with the $479,000. What we've been doing is by fixing the leaks every year and replacing a different section every year, we've been paying about a 20% premium. It's one thing to pay a 20% premium on $10,000 or $15,000 or $100,000. It's another thing to pay that type of premium for a $1 million investment. This premium is due to the increased labor and material costs. It's because we have to order and reset, the crew has to reset scaffolding every year. We have to hire an engineer every year to oversee the job being done right. and we have to spend end-of-the-year funds, and then in the past, what we've done is put a budget freeze in every year because this is something that's critical and needs to be fixed. Back in 2003, 2004, we messed up. There's no question about it. The school board hired a lousy contractor. The contractor hired a lousy subcontractor. The sub used the wrong materials. The sub installed the roof incorrectly. The clerk of the works was somewhat negligent in doing his job, and we should have sued sooner. Yes, we messed up, but the roof is still leaking. Right this minute it's leaking, as a matter of fact, and we got to replace the roof. So what do we learn, and why are we going to do it better this time? We hired a structural roof engineer to oversee the entire project. Not a contractor, a structural roof engineer who physically gets up and walks the roof. We went to a metal roof that will last 100 years with painting instead of 10 years with the wrong nails. We have our facilities manager monitoring the engineer. Now, we decided to pay off this bill in 1 year instead of bonding it out over 5 years, and this was a conscious decision. And the reason is, first of all, the total cost of this roof is, it's not going to be cheap, but it's not going to be extraordinary, but it's going to be about 31 cents a thousand. But there is an additional, but if we went and bonded it out, there would be an additional interest expense cost, legal costs, and fees in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000 a year. The warrant articles in the past and this year are less than the past few years. And also, strategically, every year we've got over 50% of the voters to approve it, but because we were going to bond it out, we needed 60%. And I believe last year it would have passed by 40 votes. So the voters do have an interest, the ones who vote, in passing this roof. So it's real simple. The roof is leaking. At some point in time, it has to be replaced. It's leaking right this minute. If it was your house and you plan to live in the next 100 years, you'd replace it. This is your house. Please vote to replace the roof.
Motion to restrict?
Andy McLeod would like to speak?
Hi, Andy McLeod. I stood as chair for the JMA Budget Committee this year and the Budget Committee in Alton this year. This is the biggest concern that I had previously was whether Barnstead is going to vote for it too, because if we vote for it and they say no, then we're stuck with where we are. However, after we voted it down last year, Barnstead didn't have to vote for it, but they had a show of hands and there was a positive response. So I feel Barnstead will vote for this without any concern in my mind. So I just want you to keep that in the forefront of your minds too when you're voting for this. Don't use that as an excuse to say no. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 11? Hearing none and seeing none, I will take a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 11.
So move.
Steve Miller, second.
Second.
Krista Argyropoulos. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article 11, please raise your cards. All those opposed? Article 11 is restricted regarding reconsideration. Article 12, to see if the school district, can you hear me? Okay. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $26,478.00 to be added to replenish the improvement of instruction capital reserve fund to the previously established, and said sum representing 55 3/3% of the total appropriation of $48,113.00. And further, that this appropriation shall be contingent upon both Alton 55.300% and Barnstead 44.97% school districts adopting the article and appropriating and transferring their respective sum of money. And further, to designate the Prospect Mountain High School Board as the agent to expend from the fund. JMA Board recommends by a vote of 8 to 0. The Alton School Board recommends $26,477 and no cents by a vote of 4 to 0. The Alton Budget Committee recommends $26,477 by a vote of 6 to 1. A majority vote is required. Who makes a motion on this article? Sandy Wyatt. Who seconds it?
I'll second it.
Marilyn St. Cyr. Who would like to speak to the article? Yes, sir, ma'am.
When you were reading it, what I have here, the first number that you read was 26,400. You said 78. I have 77 written in my packet.
I'm sorry,
and
I
then-
misread that. I
Okay,
stand
and then
corrected.
if you go down to the Alton School Board recommends 26,476. I have 76. You said a different number.
Did I really, I'm sorry.
Is that correct?
$26,477.
It says 76 in my packet.
It's
It should be
70.
77.
It's a
It should
dollar
be
difference.
set
I mean-
477.
Okay, thank you.
I read it right then? Okay.
I think, I don't know. I think that this is pretty self-explanatory. It is for the teachers to be able to do their education each year, and this is just to replenish the fund for what has been removed from it.
Any further discussion on Article number 12? Hearing none and seeing none, I will take a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 12. Sandy Wyatt, second.
Second that.
Oh, sure. Second.
Andy McLeod.
There.
All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article number 12, please raise your cards. All those opposed? Article number 12 is restricted regarding reconsideration. Article 13, to see if the school district will vote to create an expendable trust fund under the provisions of RSA 198:20-C to be known as Prospect Mountain High School Unanticipated Utilities Expendable Trust Fund for the purpose of unanticipated utility expenses that may arise at Prospect Mountain High School District, and further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,875 and no cents to go into the fund, which represents 55 3/3% of the total appropriation of $39,751 and no cents. That's 0.5% of the Prospect Mountain High School General Fund, and further, that this appropriation shall be contingent upon both Alton, 55.3%, and Barnstead, 44.97% school districts adopting the article and appropriating and transferring their respective sum of money. Furthermore, to name the Prospect Mountain High School Board as agents to expend from this fund. JMA Board recommends by a vote of 8 to 0. The Alton School Board recommends $21,875 by a vote of 4 to 0. The Alton School Budget Committee recommends $21,875 by a vote of 5 to 2. A majority vote is required. Who makes a motion to this article?
I do.
Steve Miller. Who seconds it?
Second.
Krista Ageropoulos. Who speaks to this?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, article is a little bit different, a lot different than what you've seen every year. Every year for the past few years, we have had an article that looks like this, that essentially gives us an emergency fund of about $40,000 in case the price of utilities, which is electricity, fuel oil, gas, kerosene, etc., rises significantly. And that $40,000 that is split by both towns, essentially, if it's not used, right, goes back to the people every year, and well, it should. We thought it best because essentially, This is for Prospect Mountain High School. The way we do it here at the Alton Central School is we asked you to put $40,000 in the account a few years ago and put it into a utilities expendable trust, and it stays there for the use of an emergency for utilities only. So essentially, Alton Central School does not go back to you, the townspeople, every year and ask to put aside, this emergency money in case the price of fuel spikes. Prospect Mountain High School, we've had to look at this every single year. So we are changing it now to mirror the one that you have approved for Alton Central School. And the reason we picked, somewhere around $40,000, it's just coincidental that we use $40,000 of gas, of fuel oil every year up there. And so it equates to about $1 a gallon. So, and also the Prospect Mountain High School, we're able to it's difficult for us to contract out, because we have to contract out to get a firm price for 18 months away, and we can't, and we are only offered 12 months away. There's no such thing as an 18-month contract. So for 6 months, it's kind of in limbo. So the bottom line is this. We think that fuel oil, I think we're committed somewhere in the low 2s, 212, something like that. We would need this money if fuel oil went to 312 in that area. Not exactly, because electricity goes up at a different rate, kerosene goes up at a different rate, propane goes up at a different rate. But at least we know that if prices spiked, usage spiked, we would have an emergency everyday fund. And that's what this is all about.
Any discussion on Article 13? Hearing none and seeing none, I will take a motion to restrict reconsideration
So
of
moved.
Article 13. Steve Miller, second.
Second.
Krista Ageropoulos. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration of Article number 13, raise your cards. All those opposed? Article 13 is restricted regarding reconsideration. Article 14, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 and no cents to be added to the Prospect Mountain High School Athletic Field Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Said sum representing 50% of the total appropriation of $30,000 and no cents, and further to designate the Prospect Mountain High School Board as the agent to expend from the fund. And further, that this appropriation shall be contingent upon both Alton 50% and Barnstead 50% school districts adopting the article and appropriating and transferring their respective sum of money. JMA Board recommends by a vote of 8-0. The Alton School Board recommends $15,000 by a vote of 4-0. The Alton School Budget Committee recommends $15,000 by a vote of 5-2. The majority vote is required. Do I have a motion on this article?
So move.
Steve Miller, do I have a second?
Second.
Krista Ageropoulos. Who speaks to this article?
I will. We wish to add $30,000 to the Prospect Mountain High School Athletic Capital Reserve Fund to be paid for by $15,000 from each town. It's been 10 years, since 2003, 2004, 10, 12 years that we've had this track, which has, quite frankly, a life of about 10 years. And the track is becoming dangerous where it's getting ripped up, and repairs obviously have to be professionally done. We've had injuries at both of the track and the soccer fields, my son included. It can be, that track can be abused and after hours, and there's not a lot that we can do for people abusing that track. But that's not really a critical problem. But what is kind of critical is that this is a resource for the town. The high school uses it, the school uses it, the community uses it, Barnstead uses it. You can find your friends and neighbors running on that track, almost every day of the week. So And also, what we're also looking to do is, there's been some significant injuries in the goalie box because that gets so torn up that you end up with raw dirt and holes, and foot and ankle injuries are certainly, and ACL and MCL injuries are not unusual. So at some point, this, we're giving serious thought to at least making the goalie boxes artificial turf. So essentially, that's what we need the money for, and we hope you see it our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the article? Hearing none and seeing none, I will take a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 14.
moved.
Steve Miller, second.
Second.
Mr. Agiropoulos. All those in favor of a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 14, please raise your cards. You're ahead of me. All those opposed? Article number 14 is restricted from reconsideration. Article 15, to hear report of any committees, boards, trusts, commissions, officials, agents, or concerned voters, and vote to accept the same. Furthermore, to conduct any other business that may legally come before said meeting.
Any discussion?
Is there anyone that would like to discuss, make a presentation, a report?
Mr. Howard.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Raymond Howard. I would like you to consider adding a number, I didn't bring my glasses down, number 19 to the rules, and that would be no celebrating. Under Robert's rules, the legislative body is not really allowed to celebrate, so I think that needs to be in our rules for next year. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Motion to recess?
We're gonna have a drink
We're not voting on that.
No drinking.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to dissolve the meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Sandy Wyatt, seconded by Krista Agiropoulos. The meeting is now dissolved. I thank you, everybody, for coming out and your participation.
Steve, do we need to announce the
Oh, please return the cards on your way out,
Reconvene.
or leave them on the table.
say
It
On
would be
Article
very much
3.
appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have to have a meeting really quickly, please.
Bye.